So today we're here to talk a little bit about concealed weapon licenses, permits, however you want to look at that, however you want to term it. It varies from state to state. Texas calls it a concealed handgun license. Florida calls it a concealed weapons license. So really what we're talking about is
why we should have one, and what the purpose for having it is, and the repercussions of being able to defend ourselves and our families. Those things come into play in our society. Bad things happen. Statistically, we can show that where gun laws have been loosened, where people can possess and permits are issued, violent crimes has dropped significantly. And those are FBI stats. Now, in cases like Chicago and New York, where gun laws have been created that basically outlaws anything outside of what the state desires for you, we've seen an increase in violent crimes. Go to Britain, go to Australia, and look at their violent crime records over the last number of years since they've outlawed the possession of guns, period. Their violent stats have gone through the roof, up as much as 40% or greater. To me, that's a travesty. One of the reasons why the Second Amendment is there is to allow us our God-given right for self-defense. And also, as law-abiding citizens in possession of firearms, we put the criminals at bay, and we hold them at bay simply because they don't know who's armed and who isn't.
Well, I really think that one of the most important things that needs to be talked about is this. As time goes by, the government is tightening their grip on our Second Amendment rights. It's impossible for them to stamp them out completely. Or at the very least, it will take so long that we may not see that happen in our lifetime. But what we can see happen is them manipulating the situation so that it becomes unobtainable. And what I mean by that is this. And this isn't just me saying this. This can be affirmed by other YouTube videos and other sources. The current government is trying to make things so difficult that you can't deal with them. Eventually, more than likely, what will happen is the price of concealed weapons licenses and permits will become so expensive that the average citizen can't afford to pay it. John Key Public is not going to be able to fork over $1,000 to have that permit, even if it does last 7 years like Florida does, or 5 years in the state of Texas. In either case, having to pay $1,000 for that is an expense that most people aren't going to be able to justify. Once the establishment realizes that they can't crush out getting them, then that's the next step. You make it so expensive that only the elite can afford to buy it. So really, my advice to anybody that's on the John Q. Public level is to get that handgun license now, to get that weapons license now, before the government manipulates it to the point that you can't obtain it.
Right.
There's going to be a number of people who are grandfathered in when and if they change the laws, and more than likely that's going to take place. When that can happen, I'm not a prognosticator, and I'm not trying to start a race riot to the a racing riot to the go get your permit now this moment. But I would suggest that there is some immediate need to doing that.
Absolutely.
Because if you don't, and they do decide to change their mind, you're going to find yourself on the other side of the fence. Mm-hmm. And then it'll be too late. And it really boils down to the old adage of I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Right. That's true. When you consider the average response time for a 911 call is in excess of 20 minutes, and the response time for a discharged weapon is...
It's feet per second.
Right. It's measured in feet per second. And even a .25 caliber is going to get there much sooner than a cop with a gun. I read a caption recently that said that for those who don't believe in prayer or don't believe in guns are going to be one day making a phone call. They're going to be calling 911 and hoping that the guy with the gun gets there in a few minutes. They're going to be praying that the guy gets there, the guy with the gun gets there, when they could have had one themselves. It goes back to why we need to be able to defend ourselves and why the Second Amendment is important, and being in possession of concealed carry permits so that we can protect ourselves and our family, and to some extent others in the public arena and in our own private arenas in our own homes. So when we look at all of that, we have to consider the response time. And you know, I don't know. I see ourselves as being in a position of exercising our rights and telling the government, you're not going to take this away from me because I choose to exercise my rights as a citizen. Thank you.
Well, you know, the bottom line is you either make a choice or you don't. If you don't make a choice, the choice will get made for you. It's as simple as that.
That is true.
So anybody that I was, you know, that would ask me, I would say, go get it now before it becomes unobtainable.
Exactly.
And the best choice to go get it is, where can you get it